What's going on, guys? Super Insane 18 here, and today I am bringing you a post-banless Floowandereeze deck profile. Now, for those of you that are longtime fans of this channel, you know that I love this deck, and I think that no barrier statue means no problem, because Floowandereeze has a secret weapon against today's format, so let's go ahead and show you guys what it is. Alright, so before we actually jump into the profile, I do want to say that this is the exact deck that my wife played for the Las Vegas 3v3 YCS, and although our team did not do that well, I want to say that she did have the best record on our team. We use this event as an excuse for me to be able to coach her in a live tournament setting, since that is what a 3v3 is allowing. You're allowed to, talk to your teammates and help them through their lines of play, so since she is relatively new to the game, that is what we used it for, and again, she had the best record on our team, and she did play a lot, if not mostly meta, so I think that really stands for how strong Floowandereeze actually is if a new player can be able to just demolish the meta with it. So let's show you guys the build. We are doing the typical lineup of little birds. We have 3 copies of Eaglin, this is standard, with our 3 copies of Robina. These are the searchers for the deck. Obviously you want to max out on them because they are the most important ones to open, especially in tandem with cards like Advent of Adventure or Magnificent Map. And then we are only playing 1 copy of Stree and 1 copy of Talkin. These are all you really need. I honestly considered bumping Talkin to 2, just because the ability to return banished cards is a little bit strong, but it never actually came up, so I think that 1 and 1 is the perfect ratio. Then onto the bigger birds, we have 2 copies of Emben. This is the main big one that we're going to go into turn 1. Not only is it a pseudo skill drain for our opponent, but it is also a searcher that can get us the trap that allows us to summon on our opponent's turn, and the trap also has a little bit of added bonus, but we'll talk about that when we get there as well. Then we have our 1 copy of Snowl, which is the secret weapon. I think that this card is absolutely incredible, and I want to just take a minute to talk about it. So Snowl is essentially a Book of Eclipse, and we know how strong Book of Eclipse is in this format. You can banish a card from your hand to flip all special summon monsters your opponent controls to face down defense position, but that's not all this card does. It also gives every monster you control piercing damage, and is also the only Floowandereeze monster to not lock you out of the extra deck. Now, I did actually make a video on this a while back, if you look at my extra deck Floowandereeze video, but this is kind of like a new and improved version, because what you can actually do, and it's really crazy, we'll talk about it when we get to the extra deck, but you are able to establish this on your opponent's turn, and on the next turn, link climb up into an access code talker that not only will have anywhere from 2 to 3 pops using its own effect, but if that's not enough to clear your opponent's board, the access code will also have piercing damage because of the Snowl, and I think that that's just ridiculous, so we're going to go ahead and talk about that when we get to the extra, but this is an incredible card, this format. Definitely do not sleep on Snowl. Now we are still playing 1 copy of Mist Valley Apex Avian and 1 copy of Rise of the Mega Monarch. These are just the other utility birds, options that you have either going first or second. You can establish an Avian going first. Ryza helps you pick apart boards going second, so obviously you're just going to want to play these ones. And rounding out the monster count, we have 3 copies of Ash Blossom. This is the only hand trap, and you might be asking yourself, why no D-Shifter? Well, D-Shifter really isn't that good this format. All of the top decks are playing D-Shifter themselves anyway, like Kashtira, so there's really no point in having D-Shifter in the main. It was in the side deck for the event, but I don't think that it ever came up. So you don't really need it. We might as well just make room for better cards in the main deck. Onto the spells, we're only playing 2 1-ofs, which is our 1 copy of Terraforming, as well as our 1 copy of Floowandereeze and the Unexplored Winds. These are pretty standard. Obviously, the map is the most incredible card you have, and the Floowandereeze and Unexplored Winds is able to tribute your opponent's cards, not monsters, cards, meaning that you can get rid of some pretty oppressive floodgates, as well as just interrupt your opponent on their turn. Since you're able to summon so much on your opponent's turn, having this established means you can get rid of their resources, and I think that that's just a little bit ridiculous. We are playing 3 copies of Book of Moon. Now, I prefer this over Book of Eclipse because I feel like Floowandereeze just has a very hard time clearing boards, so Book of Eclipse isn't really a great option. Because you don't want your opponent to get any draws off of it. Decks that are playing Book of Eclipse usually have a way to out the full board once they flip it face down. Unfortunately, Floowandereeze really doesn't. At best, we're clearing maybe 3 cards because of Ryza. So I really don't think that it's all that important. Book of Moon is just the better option, plus you can still use it to do the thing where you dodge specific hand traps, like if your opponent Veilers or Imperms one of your birds, you put it face down and you still get to resolve the effect, so it's both an offensive and defensive card, and I think it's just the right call. We are on 3 copies of the Advent of Adventure. Not only is this a consistency piece, but it is a win button in time because you gain 500 life points. Also, it does have that effect the same as Book of Moon, where you can use it to dodge effects like Imperm and Valor, because it removes the bird from the field, and therefore it is no longer face up to have its effect negated. So I think it's just a really strong card. We have 3 of the Magnificent Map. Very cool and very important card. Not only is it a consistency piece, but also a piece that lets you play on your opponent's turn. We have 3 pots of Duality and 3 pots of Prosperity. Consistency is the name of the game as always, so why not max out on the best consistency cards available? Then onto the traps, we are playing 1 copy of Floowandereeze and Dreaming Town. Now, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but this does let you normal summon during your opponent's main phase. But not just that. The other effect, which is really, really strong in this format, is this is also like another copy of Book of Eclipse. Same as Snowl. If you summon a level 7 or higher Wing Beast, you can banish it from your graveyard and then turn all of your opponent's monsters to face down defense. So in combination with Snowl, you will get multiple Book of Eclipses during your opponent's turn, and Book of Eclipse is probably the strongest spell this format, so I think that gives Dreaming Town a little bit of an edge over some other cards. We are main decking 3 copies of Evenly Matched. Unfortunately, you can't win every dice roll, so you need to have some kind of plan going second, and I think this is the better option over cards like Dark Ruler. In the past, Floowandereeze would play Dark Ruler no more, but in this particular format, Dark Ruler really doesn't do much. It doesn't turn off the locked zones from Shangri-Era, because that is now a condition placed on the zone, and I just think that this is a much more important and much more impactful way of being able to go second. And finishing things out, we have 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Again, you can't win every dice roll, so you have to have some form of hand trap. Plus, if you go first, you can just set this and it acts as a disruption on your opponent's turn. That is going to be the main deck at 40 cards. Let's show you guys the extra. So for the extra deck for this particular Floowandereeze build, we made it incredibly playable because, again, the effect of Snowl giving you 3 normal summons during your turn is the only additional normal summon effect in the entirety of this deck that does not lock you out of your extra deck, or specifically lock you out of special summoning. So having utility extra deck is very, very important, especially because if you're up against something like Kashtira, they're going to look at your extra deck, they're going to be like, oh, you're playing Floo, it doesn't really matter, just get whatever out of here, and they're probably not going to banish the right pieces, which is really, really cool. So first and foremost, we are playing the Zeus package with 1 Assembled Nightingale, 1 Downard, and 1 Zeus. I don't feel the need to play double Zeus in this particular deck. Double Zeus is something that is seeing a lot of play competitively because it is one of, if not the most effective way to out a full cast hero board. But because of Snowl, we don't necessarily need to worry about it. So I think that Zeus is fine at 1. If they rip it, they rip it. It's not the end of the world. We are playing 1 Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max, along with 1 copy of Juggernaut Lieb. This is a very, very niche OTK, where if you end on double Empin, or if you end your opponent's turn on Empin Snowl, or any combination of that, you can go ahead and go into your Super Dreadnought, burn for 2,000, then make the Lieb on top of it and swing for another 6,000. That's 8,000 damage total, so if you're going into a clear board, it is definitely a easy way to win. But now on to my personal favorite part of the extra deck, the next several links that we have. So we're playing 1 copy of Relinquished Anima and 1 copy of Almirage. These are really important for a couple of reasons. So 1, if they play into Anima, they play into Anima, cool, whatever, fine. But Almirage and Anima are mostly ways to get into Dark and Hida. So one of the things that you're going to want to do when you're playing Snowl, if you are trying to link climb up into an access code, is have as much access to reborn cards from your opponent's graveyard as possible. So any 1 bird can turn into Almirage or Anima, and that can get you into the Dark or Fire. A lot of decks just inherently play Darks. If you got Ash Blossom, there's an Ash Blossom for you to steal. And then on top of all of that, since the birds themselves are both waters and winds, we are playing the Araya and the Wind as well. This can also come up because of some of the Kashtira monsters being both wind and water attributes. So you are able to climb into things that are much, much more important, and that will help you get into the access code eventually. We are playing 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix. This is just a generic back row removal card if we need it. We are playing 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn. This is a way to climb into the access code as well. If you reborn anything off of the Charmer links, you can go ahead and make the Unicorn, discard, spin a card, Unicorn, and whatever 1 bird you have left into access code, and it's just an incredible play. we have one copy of Celine. This is a little bit more niche than the Unicorn. Because all the Charmers are spellcasters, you can go into a Celine, and if you don't have enough material for an access code, if you side it in the Dimension Shifter, which is a spellcaster, Celine can then go ahead and reborn the Dimension Shifter, and the final card is that access code we've been talking so much about. I think that the fact that you can now reasonably make this in Floowandereeze is absolutely incredible. Plus, again, partnered with the Snowl getting Piercing, so a 5300 attack monster that can get 2 to 3 destructions as well as Pierce is just a force to be reckoned with, and if you're able to clear the board, both a 5300 access code plus either the 27 Empin or the 29 Snowl, that is going to be exact game, if not a little bit more than exact game, to your opponent, and I think that that is just incredible. And there you guys have it. That is going to be my take on Floowandereeze post-ban list. Unfortunately, we did lose a very big piece in the Wind Barrier statue, but as you can see, it clearly doesn't matter, especially with this format being the way that it is. Snowl is everything we could have asked for. I do want to say that an honorable mention is going to be Floowandereeze and the Scary Seas. I will put that on the screen somewhere, but it is essentially like a Vanity's Emptiness. When your opponent would summon a monster, it is an inherent summon, which, again, not an official term, but essentially what you can do is you can negate the summon, and then they get 3 normal summons that turn, but cannot special summon for the rest of the turn. So that is kind of just a big damper in a lot of decks' plans, so definitely something worth considering as well, maybe in the main or side, just again an honorable mention. If you guys liked it, you know the deal. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with your friends, maybe consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.